Before I start, I want to make several comments. Just because I was approached since last week about several things. The first thing is, and this is more for people on Zoom, but if anyone doesn't want to appear on the YouTube, it's perfectly fine with me to just turn your camera off. I'm not offended. But yeah, when you speak, apparently it prompts the video here to you. I always try to pin myself so I can also see if the blackboard, if you can see it or not. But yeah, for the sake of the future, if anyone doesn't want to be on the video, turn your camera off, it's fine. Another thing, just to remove doubt in terms of payment, I don't deal with that. I do this just as a volunteer. So that's through the synagogue website. There's a donate, and then there you just need to write, okay, this is for the Hebrew class. Truth be told, Stephanie and Courtney, maybe we should bring this up to the board to just have a place to pay that's not donate on the website.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the sake of right now, I don't deal with it. If you're having trouble with the donate on the website, call Stephanie at the office. I think she's there Tuesdays and Thursdays. Do you want to say anything about it, ma'am, Stephanie?
Yeah, I mean, I'm there Tuesdays and Thursdays. You can always leave a voicemail, or you can email. I'm
Awesome.
pretty flexible that way.
Awesome, thank you. So yeah, I don't deal with the payments. By all means, website. Having said that, last week, what I want to do today is a recap and some further exercise of last week. Yes, sir?
You happen to have an extra pen, I just.
Yes, sir. These ones should work. Okay. So yeah, last week, finished the vowels and the alphabet. Thank you, Creator. Today, I'd like us to practice a little bit more, touch on a few of those notorious irregulars we've been speaking about, and continue on to single letter prefixes. Hopefully finish with them today and do some practice. Okay. So I'm going to write up some examples. So read. You want to go ahead and try in your mind, try to read this because I will ask us to have a volunteer in a second. Any takers on this one? Rick. Nice, man. Rick. That's your name, man. Rick. Or Rick, and an Israeli accent, Rick. That's how it sounds to me when I transliterate it. So unfortunately, sorry. Rick. Well done, ma'am. So we've.
Yeah.
Nice, man. So we've done this before. Jeff, your name? Jeff. Any takers on this one?
Matani.
Nice. Hello, Jason. Thank you for joining. Good evening. Max, make sure everyone has chairs, please. Thank you. Sorry, we just have people joining in. Let's see if I have some. See here. Anything? Max, give everyone to. Hello, thank you for joining. I only have copies of the Hebrew Helper. Unfortunately, we should have two things for you to follow, the workbook and the Hebrew Helper. I'll make sure to have a copy for you, ma'am, and for you, ma'am. Oh. You hand up the copies, Max? Okay, awesome. So sorry, we have a few people join in. What we're doing today, just a recap of last week, we finished Hebrew letters and the vowels that we will be dealing with. And we are now doing some exercise. Mary read, I'm gonna move to the other side, very well. Our first example, Rik, your name. Sorry, it doesn't transliterate well, but that's how an Israeli would utter it. Jeff's name, Jeff. When we just got to that one, you should also be knowing that one. Any takers? Matani, nice. So yeah, that's my name. A lot of vowels, very complicated as you can see. And I am also learning that I have written my name wrong coming here. It should be like with a double E's instead of an I, Matani. But yeah, that's my legal name now, in any case. And last but not least,
Mary?
Mary, nice, yes, sir. Mary, or in a Hebrew, in an Israeli accent, Mary, Mary.
Which one? With
Please.
with the gimel where you said Jack, would it actually be Gad?
So, ma'am, with the apostrophe, it makes it a J sound. A J sound is foreign in Hebrew, we don't have it, which is the way to bridge that gap, we use the apostrophe with the gimel. Thank you, ma'am, good question. Transliterating Mary. 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 Does this transliteration sound logical?
Maybe
Maybe.
double E there too.
Maybe double E's, right? And as you can see, it's very how you hear it. Okay. Any questions so far? In the classroom on Zoom? Okay. I'm going to continue on maybe another few examples. I'm going to start by erasing Rick over there. Anyone get this to watch the movies, by the way, from the emails or listen to the music?
I thought the matchmaker was hilarious. I like that.
It's one of my favorite movies. It shows the shame that the Holocaust survivors had early days Israel. They didn't want to talk about it. A bunch of different dialects. So the main guy, he's doing a Hungarian dialect. I'm gonna erase the other side as well. Okay. Um, Okay, starting top right. Any volunteers? Steve. Steve. Steve, that's how you write it down, transliterated. Steve. Next one,
Max.
Max. Or with a Hebrew Israeli dialect, Max. Max. And I think Courtney already suspected as much, but Courtney or Israeli dialect, Courtney. Courtney. Write down. Forgive the transliteration. And Carol. Now, this actually raises a debate because I can transliterate Carol's name as Carol or Carol, which makes it kind of as how do you hear it discussion. I always heard it as Carol. So, but just for the sake of doing it slowly but surely, the kuf, we can see it having the 3 dots, doesn't matter what the name is, making it a ke. Now it looks like a kuf, but we have the resh, followed by the cholam, which means it carries its sound. So ke ro. And then we have the lamed at the end of the word. We said technically it will have the 2 dots signaling to us it doesn't have a vowel. Usually, we also said usually Israelis will just opt out of writing it because it's an extra function where I can just understand it's at the end of the word. But yeah, Kerol. And again, I think I gave out all of my Hebrew helpers, but for the sake of the matter, I said it last time, I want to repeat it. Very healthy, and what I do expect people to do, take the Hebrew helper, letter by letter. Okay, what is this? Samech, I know it's equivalent to an S. It has the no vowel under it, so it's a s, not sa, not se, not su. So, okay, what next? Tet, I know it sounds like a T. With this vowel, doesn't matter the name. What does this vowel do? Oh, okay, so that's like a double E. So, sti. The yud carries the sound, and we have the bet without the dot inside, making it sound like a V, and no vowel to it. Steve, very easy when you do it letter by letter, and that's what I want and advise you to do. Questions about all this?
Why don't we use our that in the actual things? Shimon is the name
And I will write down Shimon, but sir, if you introduce yourself as Steve, we'll call you Steve, you know? I'm gonna do it under Steve. And I'm learning that Shimon is equivalent to Simon in English. My middle name is Shlomo, sir. Shimon. Shimon. Yeah, Shimon. It also comes from the root. We didn't get to roots of words. Words have roots. It comes from the root of Shema, sir. Shema, like the Shema. Shimon. But sir, yeah, I would introduce, if I were you, I'd introduce myself as Steve in Israel. It's easy. There are a lot of Steves in Israel. Usually all Americans. Questions? Anyone who I didn't do their name and wants me to? Please, ma'am,
Adar?
write it down. And I do want to do David because David, Israelis will resist calling you David and call you David. It's one of those that, yeah, it's too important to not be said right.
I've also heard Dobie,
Yeah. Dudu, Dudi, there's a lot of them.
but it's particularly died.
Yes, ma'am. Just making sure I write down Hadara. But there's that actor too, David Diggs. I think he's in Hamilton. So his mom made sure that his David is Daveed. Okay, so Hadara. I'm not hearing an emphasis there. Hadara. Ma'am, I will say, we spoke about vowels last week. There's a similar vowel that does the same sound. It looks like this, just as a line. The difference between this one and this one is really, this one is slightly, bless you, slightly deeper. We said in Shabbat, we hear it Shabbat, like the emphasis is on the bet, Shabbat. So that's just so you'll know. I'm not hearing an emphasis on Hadara necessarily, maybe on the da. Maybe on the da. Which case it would be this. But I could be wrong.
I think you're right, because I was with Israelis when, they said Hadara.
Yes, ma'am. But that goes to also show that an Israeli will just remember naturally where to emphasize the word, where to stuck on it, where to not. We said Italians usually do the second syllable. Hadara. And David. Greatest. David. So this is actually one of those examples where the Vav serves as a V. We can also do this to remove doubt. It will also be okay. Bless you. David. Translated. David.
Matani,
Yes, Jason?
is it ever written Dalet Vav Dalet?
Yes. So there's, thank you for that. I'm going to write it down as well. There's also an example of writing it just Dalid Vav Dalid. And then the voweling will have an extra job to signal to us that the Vav also is not just a V, it's also an E sound. So Dav V. Usually, an Israeli who writes without vowels will add the Yud to remove doubt. Because there is the word Dod. I'm gonna erase Steve here. That's my Yud. So the word Dod it means uncle. Without vowels, it'll look like David. So usually what an Israeli would do is add the Yud to remove doubt. Does that make sense? Yeah, awesome.
Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions about this? Yeah. Awesome. Now I want to move to prefixes. If you want me to do a few other examples for vowels, by all means. If I didn't do your name, let me know. Well, I didn't do yours name, so your name, sir. Phyllis, I think I did yours last year. I'll do it again. What else am I missing? I think we're good. But then I want to get to prefixes. Prefixes are a tiny bit annoying for several reasons. One of them being is this is where we don't necessarily use the same way. Americans and Israelis won't necessarily use the same way to say the same thing. Example being in versus at. It's a little bit different in Hebrew. There are more. I'm gonna erase and get to Victor and the rest, and then get to prefixes. As you may notice, I myself go letter by letter to make sure I voweled right. Same thing here with Victor, by the way. This means Victor. I can very much opt out of the yud, and it'll still mean Victor. Again, I do keep it because if I were to just write a noam, for example, I will use it. Because we don't use vowels, really. We remember. Victor. Victor. Okay? Maybe it is two E's actually. Victor. Phyllis. 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 How would I even transliterate it? Phyllis. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, awesome. There are no questions about that. I will, sorry? Thank you. I will move to,
Instead of using the verb, can I use the vet?
like this, sir? Like this? You can, sir. It'll look weird because usually we use the vowels. Will this utter the same sound? Victor? Yeah, it will. Yeah. Does that answer, sir?
Yeah, why does it look weird? Because I'm weird.
Because the usual thing to do will be to use vav, man. Why is it the usual thing to do? I really don't know.
Beginning of the word.
Maybe.
But usually a vav is a connecting letter.
Also that, man, we are going to talk about that actually in a moment. You know what, sir? Let me actually delve deeper into that from the Hebrew Academy website, and I give you a fuller answer next week. But I do want to say, as an Israeli, this will look weird to me. It will look like you are taking up Hebrew, which there's no shame in it. It will still be understandable, sir.
Well, it's a name, so I can write my name either way.
Yes, sir.
There'd be no Hebrew word that would be confusing.
No, sir. Yeah, so there's names are always they always try to transliterate it or translate them the way they are. It took me to an embarrassingly older age to understand that Milan and Milano are two different places, are the same place and not different places. Same for Naples. So in Hebrew, Napoli will be Napoli, Milano will be Milano, and all of those. Does that make sense? So we try in Hebrew to just leave names as is. But yeah, why is it specifically a Vav? I'll make sure, sir, and give you a fuller answer. Any other questions?
Matani, so if I understand correctly, if someone was to write Victor using a vet instead of a Vav, it would be kind of a big red flag that they're coming from the diaspora,
Probably.
because Israelis don't write it that way.
Yeah, I mean, how
It's
often would
cultural.
an Israeli write Victor anyway? I really don't know. But when we do, it will be with the Vavs. I'm saying it because I encountered it.
Interesting. Thank you.
Thank you. But again, for the sake of being persnickety, is this uttering the same sound? It is. Continuing on, there's no questions. I'm going to move to our first prefix, which is an easy one. And what I did last year is I made a big deal about this prefix and not about others, and realized that I should have dwelled on all of them rather than just this one, especially because this one's easy. And this one means how do we say the in Hebrew? Exactly. Yes, ma'am. So maybe for those who on Zoom may not have heard, ha. Write it down. This is just the line here. Ha. What's called in Hebrew, hey hayediyah, the acknowledging hey. What are we talking about? The ha, the hey, the acknowledging hey. Let's give an example. Let's do several examples. Torah. This is how you write Torah. I add the hey to it in the beginning, the ha Torah, the Torah.
Hashem.
That was exactly my next one, ma'am. Yes, yes, ma'am. But what I'll do again in the workbook, I'll try to capitalize the prefix or the first letter, and then the next letter that it's accompanying, capitalize as well. So you can see, or at least it will be easier to distinguish there's prefix here. The Torah. Another one would be Hashem. So Shem, I'm gonna write it down, means name, yeah. The final mem here. Shem. Okay, you said name, Shem, transliterated. See it, yeah. Shem. If I add ha, Hashem, the name. Hashem, the name. Hashem, the name. And why do we refer to the name like that? Because we're trying to avoid using his name, right? So what stuck? Oh, the name, Hashem, Hashem, Hashem. Who are you talking about in Israel? Who are you talking about? Hashem. Be'ezrat Hashem, with the help of the name. But yeah, it's big. We very much try to avoid saying his name, the creator's name. Henceforth, Hashem. Any questions?
Thank you, Matani.
Yes, ma'am?
So my name is Hadara, so is it my name is the something?
No, ma'am. And this is actually where it gets confusing because there are names, nouns, words that just have that sound in the beginning, right? And then it's up to us to just know the word, know the vocabulary, and then be able to catch, okay, there's a prefix here because I know this means name, and I don't know that this means altogether something else. It doesn't, for the sake of the matter. Does that make sense, ma'am? You know what Hadar means? It could be, and I will say, maybe I should have said it earlier, but many words will have a lot of meanings. Frustratingly so. I'm trying not to use them here. Hadar, I always understood it as citrus. So citrus fruit. Hadara is really just a feminizing of it. So citrusa. Does that make sense, ma'am? Thank you.
Did you ever study the configurations of the letter, like the shin is fire and the nun is mercy? So you have fire and mercy right there, shin.
I'm not specifically with Hadara, but other names, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah, so there is a whole school of thought, the numbers to the letters, the orders of the letters, what's their sum that they compile. That's very much biblical, though, I will say.
Endless.
Yes, ma'am. I'm gonna think of another example. I'm gonna think of an irregular. The synagogue. The synagogue.
Is synagogue actually a Hebrew word, or is it shul?
Truth be told, ma'am, in Israel, I've heard neither. I've heard Bet Knesset, house of gathering. I'm gonna write it down. So this is something I did not want to dedicate the full, okay, let's know this. Just to know that this is there because it does exist in English. Many words will mean something alone and then mean something else put together. An example from English, airport. Air means air, port means port, put together. It's an airport, right? Bet Knesset, synagogue, is another one of those examples. House of gathering, ma'am.
I thought Knesset was where the legislation.
Yeah, it is a house of gathering. That's the name of our parliament. But in essence, the point of this is that some words, when coming together, will sometimes have a bit different meaning. Or to go an even extra step, in order to say some things, we will have to use this. What's called in Hebrew smichut, or in English proximity, meaning sometimes these words need to come together in order to have a meaning. Such example is synagogue, Beit, house of, Beit, Knesset. We have our chaf with the emphasis. Beit Knesset. So it's Beit. So Beit, which is an easy word, I'm sure everyone here encountered them. I hope I encountered it. I hope. I'm gonna write it down. Beit means house or home. Beit. Knesset just means gathering. So this means house or home. Knesset means gathering. Yeah, it can just be here. Knesset, gathering. Put together, house of gathering.
Legislation.
Hakika. One law, chok, hakika, legislation. With your permission, ma'am, I'll write it down after I finish addressing this.
Matani,
Yes, Jason?
so when I see Beit Knesset translated, usually what I'm seeing is House of Assembly, which
Yeah,
I guess
assembly.
means the same thing, but that's just the syntax that's more commonly used in North American English, I think.
Okay, so house of assembly. Any disagreements with it?
Gathering,
Yeah, or so also assembly.
must have been assembly.
Probably, yes, ma'am. So here in the classroom, we said that maybe it would be more appropriate for the Knesset, the parliament, to be assembly. Is that what you said, ma'am? And then just the synagogue to be a house of gathering. Did you hear that, Jason?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Awesome. And hello, Gail, ma'am.
They had Hamikdash. Would be the holy.
A house of the sanctament, I would say. Or house of, yeah, house of the holiness. The thing is that Mikdash is a tense. We'll get to it. So how do I, for the sake of right now, how do I say the synagogue? So here's the thing. I can either say ha bet knesset, ha bet knesset, and it will perfectly mean the synagogue. Or I can say Beit HaKnesset. Yeah, which will mean the same thing. Okay? Same thing for Beit Mikdash. Ha Beit Mikdash or Beit HaMikdash. I'm gonna write it down below.
Flexibility.
Yes, ma'am. Beit Dash.
I like how you do your shin.
Sorry?
I like how you do your shin.
I'm trying my hardest so it'll be obvious. No, because you'd be surprised how people will hear it with an American ear, quote unquote. And then you get it all completely wrong because there are homophones, words that sound the same but are spelled different and mean different. Beit Mikdash, Mikdash, Beit Mikdash. So Beit. Mikdash is an iteration of the word kadosh, which means holy. It's tensed, is what I'm trying to say. It's made into almost like a infinitive, sanctament. So a holiness that is occurring. Beit Mikdash. So how do I say the? How do you say it in English again? Beit Mikdash. What's the translation? Because I just say Beit Mikdash. Just house of holiness. How will I say that with the?
Doesn't the Beit Mikdash specifically refer to the temple?
Yeah.
And
So temple in Jerusalem.
a house of prayer, I mean a house of study would be a Beit Midrash, wouldn't it?
Yes, but I wouldn't say that. So Beit Midrash will be a house of study for religious purposes, so not just a school.
Right.
But for the sake of I can same thing. I can either say Ha Bet Mikdash, or alternatively, Beit HaMikdash. Both will work. Questions about this?
Which is most common to native speakers?
Beit HaMikdash. I will say
Thank
Beit
you.
Knesset also. But it's because those are things that you discuss often. The Knesset, the parliament. Sorry?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you distinguishing that.
Thank you. Those are good. Those are great questions. The thing about it to remember is that the Knesset, being our parliament, we gripe and complain about it all the time. So when you say so you say a Knesset, or for the sake of the matter, there's only one holy temple in Jerusalem, or there used to be. So when you say Bet HaMikdash, people immediately know you're talking about the holy temple of Jerusalem. If there are other things, it can go in the other way, but this one is the most common. Again, it will work in the beginning as well. Sorry, that was a lot of talking. Does this make sense? Okay, awesome. Moving on to legislation. I'm gonna start by erasing the top. Hok, the transliterate, which means either a law, a bill of legislation, a rule. So if we're, I don't know, playing hide and seek and we have rules, so same thing. Chakika is unmistakably legislation. I'm gonna transliterate it. I think in Arabic too, actually. Hakika, yeah, I think so. But back to Hebrew, chakika, legislation. Well, yes, ma'am. Chet is kind of supposed to sound almost like a hey. Hakika, that's how it's supposed to sound. Is that how you heard it? Okay, so maybe I should emphasize it more. Hakika and chok. Do you hear it now? And that will be either a bill or law, and also mean a rule. So not rule of man in the sense of, but rule in the sense of, yeah, we have rules here. Questions?
Depends if you want to say legislator.
So you may realize we have roots. Just, yes, sir, I'm gonna write it down. So this is a male legislator, and then, so mechokek, You can hear the repeating sounds, chet and kuf, mechokek, chakika, chok.
Could hope also be commandment?
Like in the biblical sense? No, sir. Maybe if a prophet.
Rule or a law.
So Torah is kind of the word for commandment, I will say. It stems from a word that actually means to instruct. I did encounter, I don't remember which prophet it was, that did refer to it as chok. But when we understand mitzvahs or commandments of the Creator, we will either say mitzvot, some mitzvahs, or Torah. Does that make sense, sir?
Yes.
Awesome. Mechokek, and I'm gonna do, so that's male. Female will be, with me. See it, yeah. Mechokek. Mechokeket. I'm gonna erase here just so I can transliterate all of that.
So the Ten Commandments would be Yud,
Hmm.
Yud Torah, Yud Mitzvot.
So you're counting using letters, which is a very orthodox thing to do, ma'am. Orthodox has the value, the numerical value of 10, but there is also a word for 10. Esser.
Esser Mitzvot.
Yep, 10 commandments. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I was just curious.
By all means, ma'am. So mechokek. Mechokek, legislator. And mechokeket. Also legislator, except this time it's female. Hope you can see that. Now, how do I say the legislator? Ha-mechokek or ha-mechokeket, depending on who we're talking to. Phyllis, ma'am, you got close to that, didn't you? You're doing legislative law? Did you have any experience with that?
But no.
But for the sake of the matter, if Phyllis was a legislator,
Well, no, as a lawyer, that's different.
yes, ma'am. But if you were a legislator, you would be a mechokeket.
Legislators started.
Sorry.
And then they forgot.
So for the sake of just to be thorough about the ha-mechokek or ha-mechokeket means the legislator. That's an easy one. Any questions about the acknowledging hey, the, ha-mechokek, ha-mechokeket, Beit HaKnesset, ha-bet Knesset, Beit HaMikdash, ha-bet Mikdash. Continuing on. Now, I say prefixes because in essence, they attach to a word from the front of it, so from the right. But a lot of these are in essence prepositions in English. Where before that, I did want to talk about two irregulars. Write down some examples. What does this word, how do you read it? Can. Does anyone know what it means? Yes, awesome. Now, how do we write no? No is the irregular, or irregular for us at least. It is. So thank you for noticing that, ma'am. That's exactly my point. Why is there an aleph here? It's not a, we just say it means lo. Why is there an aleph, which we know is supposed to sound like an ah? The answer is the voweling here is irregular. Technically, in order for it to sound right, it should be like this, lo. We know that usually the vav carries the cholam, the o sound. Like Oregon, you have it on the Hebrew helper. Where is it here? Oh, Oregon. What we have here, and then erase the vav, is what's called as a missing cholam. We said this is called cholam with the vav. It's called the cholam. It means o for us. This is an example of a cholam without the vav. What's called a missing cholam. Sorry, those were a lot of cholams. I really don't want you to remember that name. I want you to remember that it means o. Sometimes, and in lo, there's another example. I'm going to write it down in a second. Sometimes they'll just opt out of it. And that's how it's stuck over the years. It was weird for me too, getting to learn it. So lo means no. So it does not sound like low, it sounds like lo. It means no. Another example, which is an important example. Kol, which means every or all. Yes, ma'am. In a moment, just all. One of the most common examples that you will definitely hear an Israeli say if you haven't already, Hakol beseder. Hakol beseder, which is also we can hear the ha in it. I'm gonna erase can and write it down.
Every order.
Sorry?
Every order, everything is okay.
Everything's in order. Yes, ma'am, which we understand is everything's fine. Here's the fuller explanation. Seder means order. Order. Everything is in order. This means order. Seder. So Passover Seder actually means the order of Passover. Beseder, I'm going to add the bet. Means in order. Hakol beseder means everything is in order. Bad calculation of space, forgive me. So kol means either every or all. When it receives the ha, which means the, it becomes hakol beseder means everything is in order, which we understand is fine, as everything's fine.
What if everything wasn't fine?
Hakol lo beseder. Yes, ma'am. But when I hear hakol, I understand it as everything. So just kol, I can say kol adam, every person. And then hakol means everything. How much do you want? Hakol, everything. Buying spices, whatever. How many do you want? How much? Hakol, everything. So hakol.
You didn't want all the spices, you'd say the whole.
Say that again, man.
You didn't want all the spices.
Lo hakol, yeah. And you will get the how do you call it? Enthusiastic shopkeeper every now and then. Hakol will mean everything. Okay, any questions so far?
Thinking the vowel under the vowel.
Yes, ma'am. Good catch. Beseder. I think it has 3. Beseder. Good eyes, man. Now, and as you can see, in my mind, I'm trying to already think about the next example and the next topic, so I do forget stuff. By all means, if you think you noticed or pointed out, it's not beneath me, by all means. Okay, so that was ha. I feel like I did it thoroughly, maybe even a bit too thoroughly. I do want to get to other stuff. One that's two examples. I'll start with the easier one. Can I erase the top? How do we say and in Hebrew? Okay, so the addition and. Sorry?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. So I'm going to write 2 examples here. Okay, and I think in the workbook, the way I transliterated it is, let's see here. Yeah, the same way actually. I'm going to transliterate it as ve. You may notice we have the shva here, or this vowel that in essence means no vowel. So how does it sound as v? V. What happens when we actually try to say and something? For example, mom and dad, or dad and mom, Abba ve'ima. It immediately sounds more of a ve, kind of unwillingly. I'm gonna write this down instead of all this. How do you utter this? Abba, which means dad or father. Abba ve'ima. So if I were to be a stickler for this, it would be Abba ve'ima. It sounds weird. In Israel, everyone talks fast, definitely in their own language. Israelis are no exception. So you talk fast, you slur, you mumble, and what ends up happening is Abba ve'ima. Ve'ima. Okay? Which is the more common one. How is it correct? That way. Ve, without a vowel. How will you hear it? Is ve. Especially if you watch the series and the movie recommendations. But in order to be thorough, Abba ve'ima. Ve. Ima. Prefix that means and. Ve. Abba ve'ima. Father and mother, or mom and dad, or dad and mom, sorry. Dad and mom. How would I say mom and dad? Ima ve'abba. Excellent. Yes, ma'am. Ima ve'abba. Jeff ve'Mary. Mary ve'Jeff. Matani ve'Rick. Max ve'Matani. Courtney ve'Hadara. Do you hear that? Any questions? Anything else?
Would there be a space between that and Bob, or would it just be part of the first word?
It'll be conjoined, ma'am. Maybe I even left a little bit too much of a space here, actually. It will be like, yes. Is that clear, ma'am? Thank you. Any questions on Zoom and here in the classroom? Okay. Okay. So that's an easy one. I want to move on to a harder one. Hard is relative, it's not that hard. But it's one of those that Israelis would say a different word in order to say the same thing. Remember in the first lesson, I'm going to erase it off. We said about how there's a semantic field, it doesn't necessarily overlap. There are things that exist in Hebrew and don't in English. And on top of all of that, we also said that we speak in notion. Not most people don't really speak literally anything. And then it kind of becomes, okay, so how does the person think? Which is interesting and frustrating at the same time. I'm talking about this. Following it wrong, yeah. How would you utter this? B. Or be, I would say, for the sake of the matter, when it's a prefix. Or ba. Which means in or at. Sometimes it will mean on. For example, got a good one here. Let's see. I am home. I'm at home. How would you say is the correct way to say it in English? Sorry. I'm at home. I'm in home. At home.
I'm home.
Yeah. Well, in Hebrew, we don't get to be so fancy. We still need to keep the at or in. But let's say ani. We said it's unisex, so both males and females will refer to themselves as ani. Ani. And we already know that bait means house or home. Ni, we have the prefix here. Ba, eat. Nice, awesome. Whoever, I think it was, yeah. Ani, bait. I am home. versus so this is a new development actually that exists in modern Hebrew and doesn't in the biblical one. It's a difference in the sound. So ani babayit versus ani bebayit. I'm going to erase the bottom and transliterate so you can see exactly what I mean. So the top would mean I am home, babayit. The bottom would mean I'm at a house. I'm going to transliterate the top here. Actually, yes, ma'am. Ani babayit. So this is number one. Two. One. Okay. Note this is a change in the sound. The top one, so one, will mean I am home. I am home. Or I am at home. And then the second one, number two, will mean I am at a house or in a house. Both will be true. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So to give another example, ba Beit Knesset. I understand you're talking about a specific synagogue we both know. If you're saying be Beit Knesset, you're just telling me you're in a synagogue, a synagogue. Can I erase the top and write it down? Ani ba bait, I'm at home. Ani be bait, I'm in a house, at a house. Again, ani ba bait, ani be bait. Where does it get confusing? That sometimes an Israeli will, in Israel we will say in English the word will be at. It's not that, it's there, I want you to know that it's there, but very easily bridged if we just work on it. But for the sake of the matter, the other example, let's say I'm at the synagogue, our synagogue, or am I just in a general synagogue? In that calculation space. See it? Yeah. Ani ba bet ne se ne se versus ani be Um, Okay, so the same difference will apply. I'm at the synagogue. I immediately know you're talking about the synagogue we both know, and probably our synagogue. So for example, if Noam's asking me where am I, Ani babit knesset. Ani babit knesset. He will immediately understand that I'm here in Mount Sinai. If I say Ani be bit knesset, he'll probably ask me which one. Are you not at our synagogue? At which point I'll need to explain. Make sense? Any questions about this?
But it's significant, aren't they?
Yes, ma'am. And you know, we see it all the time that the different variations will change the vowels in a certain way, and then it makes it confusing. Yes, ma'am. I'm gonna erase the bottom so I can transliterate. But I will say also that biblical Hebrew did not have this. It was born kind of in the recent decades.
We need to say Babe.
Sorry?
Bobby, because Bobby is really, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Safta and.
I will say specifically Bobby is very much ingrained in Israeli slang. There are a lot of words from Yiddish that have ingrained in the Israeli lingo.
So. That'd be funny, Bobby, home and I'm there.
Sorry, Ann?
I'm home and I'm there.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. But not specifically on Bobby as it's short for something like an endearing term. I think in Yiddish, is it? Does anyone know?
Grandma.
Hmm. Okay, good. Thank you. I didn't know that. Being an Israeli, I didn't know that.
Zayd.
I do want to write Bobby just so you see how it's written, but yeah, Ani Babit Knesset. Okay, so this will be the specific one. This will mean a general synagogue. Okay, again, Ani Ba Bet Knesset, which means specific synagogue. Let's write it down. Right, nice writing. And this one is a general one. Be Bet Knesset. Questions on Zoom, in the classroom? Okay, awesome.
Just for entertainment, would you say it's none of your business in Hebrew?
How would I say it? Speaking to a male or a group of people.
A person, but you have to pick, right? So I mean.
Ze lo inyancha. This is not your business. Ze lo, this is not. Inyancha is everything put together, possession and everything. Your business. So ze lo, this is not. Inyancha, your business. It's a tense of the word, man.
It sounds more kind than.
Well, you know, then you kind of get to how Israelis speak. My sister-in-law always thought we were fighting. always used to cry about it, but then I have to tell her, yeah, no, we're just messing with each other. We're not fighting. Um, I'm gonna erase the board unless there are any questions.
Do they have things like in America, we say butt out?
Uh,
Butt out, say to your sister in the quick heat of the moment. How would you say butt out to your sister?
so Israelis kind of slang different. It will usually be in rhetorical questions.
Oh,
Or like, why are you pushing yourself into this? Why are you pushing yourself into this? Lama ata nidchaf, speaking to a male. But yeah, slang is also one of those that we will say stuff differently. Does that make sense?
yeah, which to me interprets as such a kindness instead of just saying butt out. It's okay. Then you- Yeah. That's fine.
And by all means, if anyone else heard something that they want me to translate, please do. This is the whole point for us to learn what we want to learn, or what helps us at least. I will say I'm very confident. I'm very confident that if you know everything in this workbook, you will be fine in Israel. Keep in mind that there's no shame in it. Israelis, for the most part, do speak English. And are excited to attempt too. So it's very likely that you'll go to Israel very excited to practice and then end up speaking English all the time. You know? Yay. Next one, easy one.
What's easy in Hebrew? How do you say easy?
So simple and easy are two different words, right? So easy will be kal, which we can also understand it as lightweight, but also easy. What was the other word? Simple? Shoot, yeah. Nice. A shoot. Simple. Or something that's simple but is male, at least. If it's female, it'll be pshuta.
So I want to go back a second to the legislator. You had male and female, but the female was in a hop.
Yes, sir.
Why is that?
The most thorough answer is that there are different ways to signal male versus female, sir. I think a few classes ago, Rick asked a similar question. So nationalities, for example, professions, let's have an example because it's a good one. Normal, simple words will usually have this happen to them. Yes, sir. When we're trying usually more, do it here. So yeah, we have these irregulars like nationalities, professions. So for example, American. Two different ways to set, so two different ways to set, male and female, of course. This is male. I'm not reading it yet. So we have the different endings here. The top one's male, the second one is female, obviously. Anyone want to try and read it? You want to try, Max?
Yes, sir. America.
Amerikai, yeah, nice. Amerikai. That's male, and a male who's American. A female who's American, Amerikait. Well done, sir. So this is a nationality. I think we're two lessons ago, we gave the example of firewoman versus fireman. But again, nationalities, profession, they're kind of more complex notions, whereas nouns, adjectives, for the most part, sir, will receive an ending that sounds like an a. I wanted to touch on this. We are gonna get into this more in depth, sir. I think in 2 more subjects. I think so. Masculine, feminine, singular, and plural. For the sake of right now, does this give you an answer?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, I have time for the last one.
No, but if you, instead of ending that in heat,
Mhm.
if you put a ka, would it be the same understanding?
So you're saying is if
For the female,
mhm,
instead of America, heat,
mhm.
if you had a hay there instead of the tet, would that work also?
No, sir. No, sir. I do want to say it occurs to me as I read this and as you read it. So American, being a nationality, is also foreign, but it also has a lot of vowels to it, a lot of syllables. America. So if I were to stop here, America, it'll just be America. And that's a problem because if I'm trying to make this a female and then in the Orthodox way, which is make it an a sound, I'm in a problem. So how do I bridge that? Amerikait. And the same would be for a guy, for a male. If I were to stop here, I'm still saying America. Does this make sense, sir?
Yes.
And I will say many a times, the reasons are phonetic, meaning it sounds better to say it this way rather than, in this case, it's impossible, but I hope that makes sense. Yeah, I have time to do that last one, not thoroughly, I will get back to it, but for the sake of doing it now. Same will be true. We say it fast or slur, so it becomes, instead of a l, it becomes le. Which means two. Okay. Let's say to Israel, le Israel. To le Israel, to Israel. Israel. Yeah. Israel, we see the prefix here, which means le. All right. To le Israel, to Israel. It just so happens that Israel can also be a name of a person. And if we're trying to set to Israel, which is usually how we call it, a person was named Israel, it will also be true. Okay, so to Jeff, le Jeff. Who do you want me to give this to? Le Jeff. To Jeff. Same will be true to each one of our names. Jeff is just faster, right?
Probably the most common we hear is l'chaim.
Sorry?
I said the most common we hear is l'chaim,
Yeah,
to life.
yeah, lechaim. Yeah, to life. Lechaim, let's write it down. Lechaim. Chaim means life. Chaim means someone who's called Chaim, life. Lechaim, to life.
So can we say l'shalom?
Yeah, to peace. Yeah.
I had somebody tell me that I should say b'shalom.
In peace. Yeah. Also makes sense. Lech beshalom, go in peace, or lech leshalom, go to peace. Both will be very logical. I don't have a lot of time. I do want to ask if there are any questions before I wrap up on Zoom as well. Okay, awesome. As you may notice, I did not get to finish everything I set out today. That's okay. I take that into consideration. I am going to switch to our presentation real quick. Those writing at home, you can still pin my screen so you can see it. Move our boxes. Okay. Let's see here. So there are more examples for the two-letter words, for example, on the presentation. I never have enough time to do all the examples, not nearly as much as I'd like. So by all means, refer to the presentations, because I do make sure they are on your weekly email. There are other prefixes here that I did not get to today. I will next week. But I do want us to, just as a quick summary, prefixes, they come before the word, meaning on the right side when joined, without space. We can see it here. We can see it here. We've mentioned it. This is where it gets a little bit tricky, because English will have separate words to prepositions, usually to indicate many meanings, and more. Now we're tackling how do we do it in the Israeli modern Hebrew manner. We spoke about the transliteration. I do want to repeat again, when I know that I'm using prefix in the workbook and whatever, I capitalize the next letter to make it easier to understand. Okay, there is a prefix here. There is a lot of vocabulary building in the workbook that I just don't have the time to do it here. Now we're in a weekly as measly. For next week, definitely practice the 14 to, what did I say here, 22. Keep in mind, I did not finish everything I wanted for next week, so I will finish back, circle back. So some of this you won't know, like some of the prefixes, but the vocabulary building, definitely try to do it all. And once we finish this, we will get to pronouns, question words, and after that, masculine, feminine, singular, and plural. I am now going to stop sharing. And if there are no more questions, I think I am done for today. Are there any questions?
Not about, sir.
Sorry, ma'am?
You know English and you know Hebrew, and I've always wondered, can you tell a lot about the people with different types of thinking?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Yes, yeah, a lot of different types of thinking. But a lot.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry, I think I got some chalk in my eye, but
That's okay.
you know, that's a very good anecdote. The languages have mentalities, the people have different mentalities, kind of.
So you're
Israelis.
supposed to be different, knowing they think like this.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh,
Israelis were very direct, very cut to the chase. less about the whole ceremonial. Let's be courteous to each other. I will say that. I'm very much more direct. Yeah. Yeah. And then the way it sounds is can vary. Yeah. Any more questions? Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Stephanie, ma'am, I think we can stop recording.